Hey, sorry about that. I think that was a little bit more than 10 minutes, but had to be because Bo not only had to go to the bathroom, but he had to go and I forgot it was his lunchtime, so no wonder he was starving. Little puppies have a lot of energy. Okay, so I was saying to continue, see if everybody comes back. Hey, everybody. I'll give you a second to come back. There's one. Hopefully everybody will come back that was listening to before. So what I had said is, or shared, was that it kind of is a little bit of like a confessional for me because I'm talking about topics that I've always shied away from talking about publicly in my career because as a holistic healer, super important for the credibility, right, of working with business people and whatnot. So I've shared about my experiences with government approaching me. I've shared some experiences about aliens. I shared, this battle of light and dark that's going on that I'm not going to get into specifics, but just do your homework, and I shared a little bit about Walmart and then really why the transition had to happen for me away from corporate. So that was in the previous video. By the way, thank you, Anne. I'm not going to share the video on Facebook. So whoever got to see it. I will post it on YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube channel, and I'll post the link a little bit later of where you can see it there. But, Facebook has just been really interesting. Before I continue about Arbo, just to let folks know, those of you that watch me regularly, see my posts regularly, you know that there's been some very odd attacks. I used to post publicly all the time, to anybody who wanted to look at, and my posts, because of the energy I carry, were always well received. Very rare, since having been on here, that posts go wrong or people attack me. And the attacks of late have just been off the map, which just tells you about the darkness. Again, I think a lot of what's going to hopefully be exposed soon is going to kind of shatter people's reality, those that have been unkind, those who have promoted violence because their cause is right, but violence happens on the other side and their cause is wrong, and vice versa. So really, any form of violence, anybody perpetuating violence, there's a problem. The cognitive dissonance around health has been unparalleled. Hopefully the truth will come out about that. And so that was a lot about what I was sharing in the first video, including some visions I had, back in high school. So if you want to, you can come on YouTube a little bit later once I upload it. So again, the disturbance occurred because Arbo needed to go not just number one, but number two, and then yelled at me because said, hey, it's lunchtime. And I was like, oh, wow, time flies when you're working and sharing. So I had to feed his happy little butt, which then the two older ones were looking at me going, why don't we get lunch? And then I have to explain that they're big enough and don't need all that food. All right. So, yes. So I've been very blessed because, how do I phrase it? So, okay, I'll go back to what I shared a little bit before. I had this brother type who basically was angry at me and ridiculed me publicly because I had cheated the system and found happiness, meaning I didn't become a lawyer. I wasn't making, over 7 figures like he's making, and I'm happy, whereas he did everything he was told to do, making all that money, social position, and is the most miserable human being on earth and toxic. And it's a shame because I knew the person as a young person, and he was a great kid, and I really loved him. And it was just really a shame to hear how he came out against me because I didn't do what I was told to do or bred to do or educated to do. And because I cheated the system, I should not be happy. So I've encountered that a lot in my life, but more poignantly recently this has occurred. And again, this is where the energies are wrapping up of light and dark. And unfortunately, he's gone to that side of darkness. This is Thor, who's with me right now, and he's doing great with the puppy, by the way. I'll share a little bit more about that. So I think one of the gifts to having made the sacrifices that I made initially, they were sacrifices because they were hard. I was ridiculed. I was ostracized. I was made fun of. No matter how professional I kept it, within their context of professional, it was just never good enough. And so, I definitely ostracized, and it was hard. But, I had to like myself, and myself had to be my own best company and my animals. And the benefits or the rewards to having given up that life have been amazing, because all the people I've helped, all the animals that I've helped, all the joy that I've brought, the lives that I've actually saved. Unbeknownst to me, I find out years later people were going to commit suicide and didn't, and redid their entire life. And I feel very blessed that I was able to contribute in a positive manner. Yes, I love you too, Thor. And now this is what I have. I think like Arbo is Arrow. Why he came back was basically, it's up for grabs. What I heard Arrow say to me in spirit before coming in as the puppy was, I will always be with you now. And it was funny. I had forgotten. That was one of Arrow's gripes. Whenever I would bring Baldur to the barn, why do you have to bring that mongrel, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, why are you so hostile? I mean, why are you so angry? And he said, well, he always gets to be with you. And I only have 3 hours, so I want my 3 hours, and I want it undisturbed. And then he would be angry that I would have to be out of his sight. He always wanted to be with me, because I feel like a part of Arrow didn't trust this world either, and he didn't trust my well-being. He knew Baldur was with me, but that wasn't good enough. Arrow wanted to be with me, to have my back, have my six, if you will. So when he decided to come back, it was really interesting, because I came out of the bathroom. That's where I left off. And Baldur was looking at me with his face like Snoopy Vulture. Now you know why I'm not coming back. Because you don't need me now, because you have him. He's going to stand in my stead. Baldur has come back 3 times. He was Bailey, then he was Jen, now he's Baldur. And, there are a couple people that know the story of my animals and know the story of Bo. And 2 people confirmed when I mentioned the puppy, without even mentioning Arrow's name. They said, it's Arrow, right? And I went, yeah. And it was nice to get that confirmation, because I never carried that ego of I'm always right. I mean, I've always been right, but at the same time, I don't have that ego. So I was really happy for the confirmations from friends. Melissa Basilar, who does amazing animal communication work and psychic work in LA. And she has a rescue, Wagmore Pets. She confirmed it. And then my vet, who is a DVM, she's a veterinarian. She's also a magnificent holistic vet. She confirmed it. And then quietly she said to me, do you know how lucky you are to have the animals that you have and the commitment they have to you? And I sat back and I thought about it, because it really did hit me really hard. And I went, I think the animals are my reward or blessing for everything that I gave up in the traditional world or material world or the dark world, that I didn't go for the money, that I didn't compromise my reputation, that I didn't compromise my ethics or morals, not once. And it didn't get me far. And I was always, God, in Hollywood, I always had my head hanging. And then when I had to leave Hollywood because of my circumstances, I thought, man, excuse my language, folks, but anybody who knows me, I'm from Jersey, so I do have a mouth on me. Man, I got my ass handed to me by Hollywood. I've never felt that much failure in my life. I've turned down opportunities in business and in government because I knew they were wrong, but I've never felt like I failed before the way I felt in Hollywood. And again, recently doing my homework, of course I failed. Of course I failed, because the darkness is in control there and was never going to allow a person of light. And I had it confirmed constantly. So that's my story. I have, that's a little bit of my story, at least the confessional part of it. Hi, Robert. Good afternoon. Thank you, guys. it was a pleasure to do this in two parts. So what I just disclosed is that Arrow is actually Arbo come back, and it's the same soul, so there are similarities, but it's a different lifetime. But Arrow, his whole thing was, now I will always be with you, which was his biggest concern as a horse. He could not always be with me, and he was always upset about it. And I should have suspected he was going to come back, because he died so... Man, I mean, he strutted out of the barn to go to the grassy knoll where we helped him pass. He strutted like Secretariat going to the Belmont. He just strutted like he was going to dispatch somebody. He was not afraid to die. He was nervous. I mean, he kept looking at me because I couldn't hold him when they were helping him go down. We explained the process to him, or more like that day, anybody who watches the YouTube video that I did shortly after his death, I asked the vets, what does the process look like with a horse? Because I've only done it with dogs. And the vet explained it like moment to moment. And you could see Arrow listening and looking at me and looking at the vets. And then one of the vets said, you didn't ask that for yourself. You asked that for the horse. And I said, yes, Arrow understands full sentences. He understands language better than we do. I said, we're the ones that look like idiots because we don't understand horse. And Arrow went down textbook, like exactly as she said was the perfect, easiest way for a horse to go down once they're sedated. And Arrow didn't like to be held, confined, especially by people he didn't know. And she was holding his head, and she said, I have to do this because I know how to do it and you don't. And I went, I understand. I just want to stay within as close as I can to him so he knows I'm here. I'm not going to let him be alone in his transition. My job is to stand here with him and hold his hand as he leaves this world. It's not to be crying. It's not to be losing my biscuits. It's to hold his hand and support him into this world. I mean, out of this world, which was a gift in its own right. And he looked at me and he went down on his knees, and she cradled his head and made sure his head didn't hit the ground hard. And Arrow allowed it because he realized, she explained it to him. She's cradling my head so I don't bang it when I go down, and I'm not traumatized as I'm passing on and being sedated. And this transitions perfectly into my next topic, which is please go see my latest blog on my website, connectedenergyhealing.com. I did, emotional literacy, communication skills, and action steps. I taught for a long time in corporate. I did training and development at very high levels. Like I said before, the higher I went in corporate, the darker it got. And the sicker I got physically, just as sick as I got in law school. Because I wasn't supposed to be there, and it wasn't about integrity or ethics. It wasn't about joy. It wasn't about mission and purpose. So as I started working more and more with other species, I began to realize that nobody does emotional literacy with animals. So I coined the phrase ELA, emotional literacy for animals, because people would say to me consistently, they do animal communication work. They're Reiki masters. They have books out, and they'll say, your animal communication work is a totally different level, and you're consistent. Animals, like people, listen to you. You create change with your energy work, your behavior psychology, all at a distance. And people call me in when they're really stuck and trainers aren't working, and the good trainers partner with me to help with change, especially with rescues. So emotional literacy for other species is just as inherently important as is for people. And so when people tell me, how is it that you do things so successfully with such a multitude of different animals and different personalities and different issues, whether it's rescue, traumas, PTSD, and I said it's because of the emotional literacy and the communication skills and the action steps that I know how to take, and the understanding of human behavior, human psychology, animal behavior. It's okay. He's not going to bite you. I won't let him. So that's the other thing. The puppy cannot be given carte blanche to annoy adult dogs. Thor gets nervous because the puppy is a chewer and grabs his tail and wants to be close, but it's just all mouth. So This is the first time, you really can't see it. This is the first time Thor is allowing the puppy to lay next to him, and on the other side of him is Baldur. Now, Baldur will allow the puppy to cuddle. Thor likes to cuddle with humans, does not like to cuddle with the puppy. And I think he's just uncomfortable for a couple of reasons. Thor has a lot of trauma, I'm going to fix this, from being, a rescue and being mishandled. Thor is a big dog. He is bigger than Baldur. Could be quite dangerous in the wrong hands. Be patient. He's just smelling you. He's not going to bite you. I won't let him hurt you. So Thor really doesn't trust himself to discipline the puppy because he's afraid he's going to make a mistake, because he was dumped twice before the age of 2. Not even adult himself. He's just about to turn 3 and some change. And he was dumped for making mistakes. He made mistakes because no one gave him the education that he needed. That's the difference between working with me and straight training. Training is good. We train people too, but training is not the end all be all. You have to really look at it as education and give your animal a solid education, not only in their own species, but in also humans. So they have like the hardest thing. They have to not only learn their own species stuff, they have to then learn all of humans' stuff, which is usually counterintuitive to what they do. So like horses will throw their bodies at you to move you around because that's what they do to other horses, but most of them are not educated to not do that to people, or they are educated but in a really barbaric way. So just for a second, Thor was totally relaxed and laying down, and the puppy was sandwiched between Baldur and Thor. He's about to get up just because he's feeling insecure about it. He doesn't want the puppy to do anything stupid, and he doesn't want to react and make a mistake. So Thor was never given education. He made mistakes, and then he got dumped at kill shelters in Texas. People are grand, aren't they? I think it's the people that should have been dumped in the kill shelter, not Thor, because Thor came to us and there were all kinds of accusations against him. And I'll tell you right now, I'm, not the world's best dog trainer, but just him being with us the past year and a half, there's not a mean bone in this dog's body. And if he's made a mistake, it's because it's lack of education. So here we are. You'll read it in my blog about how I approached emotional literacy with introducing a new baby. And I use the word new baby on purpose because humans also will dump dogs because they get a new baby. Dog growls at said baby because dog is not prepared for baby because no one's bothered to talk to the dog about what's happening and why it's happening. And if the dog has an issue with it, how to quell those fears. And so then the dog ends up in the shelter. And I've read a few cases like that, on the internet lately, and it just makes my stomach turn because there's nothing darker than to condemn a dog to death at a shelter because you came home with a baby that you didn't bother to prep the dog for. That's your freaking fault, not the dog's. And that really makes me hot under the collar. So poor Thor probably may have not ended up okay if Joy hadn't match made us so Joy was in LA, Thor was in Texas, and we were in Oklahoma. And she match made us. She's the head of Rescue Me Incorporated. And it was the perfect fit. She knew Baldur's background. She knew me. She knew my husband, what our lifestyle is, who we are as people, the fact that we really understand German Shepherds, and said, this is absolutely the right fit. And she was dead on right. So anybody considering getting a dog, look for a matchmaker. You can work with Joy. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And whatever money she charges you goes straight back into the rescue to help all the rescue dogs that we have. Over 20 years of a platinum reputation, our rescue, and I sit on the board of directors, of course. So Baldur liked Arrow initially when I rescued Arrow when Arrow was a horse. Baldur's peace and love puppy. He tried to kiss, Arrow on the nose. And of course, Arrow was a Mustang and saw dogs as a problem, as a threat, as a predator. So, he shook his head and said something like filthy mongrel. And then he did it like 3 times. And then Baldur was like, game on, filthy nag. And then it was kind of a hate thing. And what I did was saying, neither one of you can cause harm to the either one because this is a family. And so I was like, Arrow, you can't lay a foot on him or set of teeth on him. And Balder, you have to maintain your space and you can't scare or do stuff to Arrow. And they had this tenuous truce. So now here Arrow is reincarnating, which is why Balder was so concerned initially, because Balder's concern was he was going to be replaced by Arrow, because he knew what a presence Arrow was in my life. I did not share that in the blog, so that's an extra little tidbit. So I had to do a lot of work talking through that with Balder so that he understood that actually this was a new Arrow coming in for a different lifetime as a different species, and that it was going to be up to Balder to educate the puppy. So fascinatingly enough, this has been happening here. Thor plays with the puppy very carefully. He stays out of situations to discipline the puppy because he's worried he doesn't know how to do it correctly. So he doesn't want to risk making a mistake, which I appreciate. So I said, hey, if you've ever got a question and you don't feel comfortable with the puppy, you come to me and I'll take care of it. And I set him up to succeed. That's not in the blog either. And then with Balder, it's been fascinating. Balder has been correcting the puppy in dog terms and doing a fantastic job, like showing teeth, growling a little bit, warning the puppy not to take things that don't belong to him when someone else is playing with it. And then there's like, he's teaching him the rules of play. Like sometimes you can take something that that you didn't start playing with, but if the other one's willing to, it's like all the rules of play that dogs need to learn. And it's kind of nice. This is the first time in my life that I've ever had another dog to raise another dog. Now I have 2 dogs. So it's interesting how life plays a role in bringing things full circle and certain rewards for certain people and the blessings. I may not be the wealthiest person with a fancy house. We still rent. But our landlords are awesome. I love my landlords. Not many people can say that, but our landlords are really lovely people. But we have everything that we need and our home is comfortable. And little did I ever imagine that I would have 3 beautiful German Shepherds and that I would have 2 wonderful horses and special needs and rescue and all of it. And it's a lot of joy. So whenever I get stressed about what's going on right now in the world, because there's a lot going on and it's hard stuff and there's a lot of change in the horizon, I look at what we have as a family and I'm very grateful for that, because I didn't know how I was going to get here. And I know there's still more adventures to go. You know, I'm 51 in March. Oh my God, 51. Where did the time go? And I am going to finish my book this year if it kills me. And yes, a lot of people want me to teach, and I will figure out how to put up those classes and do the work and teach. So there's my story, and I want to share something. So with you guys talking about the blog I just did, this is the first time that Thor has laid down with the puppy and allowed the puppy to cuddle. Can you guys see that? So there's Thor, then the little black mass is Arbo, and then there's Balder, and they're all together. And, you know, Thor's still a little concerned, but there you go. It's okay, Thor. It's all right. I'm here, buddy. So, you guys just witnessed a wonderful transformative moment behaviorally. We're on day, I think, 6 or 7 of Arbo being in the house. And Thor just allowed himself to relax enough, even on camera. He did it on camera. To allow the puppy to lay down with him and snuggle. So that is the second part of this confessional. This will not be posted either on Facebook. The video will be erased, but I will have it on YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to share part 1 and part 2, you can. I think, you know, as time goes by, I'll talk more about my alien experiences, especially the one that just happened, which was really freaking wild. I'll give a little precursor to it. Lights, teleport stuff, it got thwarted. I didn't get taken, obviously. But then somebody serendipitously in my line of work said, you need to watch this interview. I don't watch satanic movies, and nor do I watch abduction movies, because I just don't want to attract all that stuff, because I know it's real. And I don't think it should be watched for entertainment. It's just, there's something to be taken kind of seriously as a person who knows what it is. But then the woman that was abducted, who has similar gifts to myself, but I guess different because she wasn't able to stop it from happening, she described the same exact thing that happened to me 2 months ago. So there was no way that I knew about any of the things that were happening to me outside in the darkness before dawn with the horses, with the light that I experienced. It was really crazy. So I think as time goes on, I'll share more about the government stuff, of being asked to join the government, like 6 Ways to Sunday, and each time saying no. Those original Mars Project NASA guys were unbelievable. I mean, I wondered if they were human, because they knew what I was the minute they saw me sitting there. They wouldn't stop staring at me, and it's not because I'm like a model or anything, and I wasn't dressed sexy. I'm gonna dress like I am now, a mess. But they were really, I didn't even keep their cards. That's how freaked out I was. I literally ripped their cards up and ran. I mean, I got off the train and ran, because I was like, are these guys going to have me followed? Are they going to have me dragged up to this military installation because they want to test what I can do? So I think there'll be, other times in my life that I will share more about these experiences, and the different things that have happened to me that are really out there. I mean, the healing work is out there enough as it is. When people experience what I can do and their feelings around it, it's pretty wild. So, all right, guys, thank you for letting me talk about all this crazy stuff that I've really never wanted to talk about before. I hope it helps some of you open your eyes and be open to all the shifts that are occurring. Again, I'm not going to post this on Facebook because there's just been too much weirdness on Facebook, too much negativity. The attacks have been literally spiritual attacks. I did a video on the spiritual attack thing, and Facebook seems to be wrought with, the side of darkness, because on all the other platforms, I have not experienced attacks like this, and the twisting of words and the divisiveness of how things are phrased. So thank you again, everybody, and thank you so much. I just love you guys. I really appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Remember, stay present. Keep the light around you. Keep your faith. God, Creator. The good side always wins. It's just there has to be enough of the light in order for that to happen, and just keep that very present. Say prayers for this country. I think we can all agree about freedom and about goodness. Pray for the best possible outcome. Don't pray for individuals. Don't pray for political parties. Pray for the safety of this nation and everybody in the world to just stay in the light. Thank you so much, Robert. Happy New Year to you too. Hopefully 2020. Wow. I can't believe we're in the year that we're in. 2021 will be transformative, and at the end of 2021 we'll all be happy that we went through what we've been through in order to get to this end. So thank you again, everybody. You have a great day, and I'll be on live soon. All right, bye-bye.